Welcome. My name is Ken and this is my hobby bench. And today I'm going to be working on a Tamiya 1/48 scale US main battle tank M1A2 Abrams. This kit's been out for a few years. It does come with two marking options that are based out of Iraq in 2003, I do believe. Yes, that's correct. So we're going to open up the kit right now and find out what we have inside. So I'm going to take the plastic wrapping off. Alright, let's see what we have in the box. So opening it up, we see we have several bags of parts. Here it looks like the turret parts. In here we have the hull. We have the top of the hull and the lower part of the hull, as well as side skirting armor. In this bag here, it looks like we have the rear of the tank, as well as some of the storage areas. The one figure character is here. There's his body, just his upper torso sticking out. And we also have a barrel here, and several of the machine guns, grenade or smoke launchers. And this bag here, looks like we have two sprues in here. This one has also a little baggie of polycaps in there. And we have, looks like our tracks are here. They are what's known as link and length. So we have several little small link parts to go around the corners. And then we have the length parts to cover out the longer areas. We also have the road wheels in this bag here, as well as the combat identification panels, the drive sprockets for the tank, and then we also have a metal bar in here to add some weight to the kit, as a 1/48 scale is not very large and not very heavy. Getting into the bottom here, we have the decals, or decals, depending where you're from, is how you say it. And we have both for F2 and F4, as well as some other markings. In here we have some other documentation from Tamiya, talking about assembling of models. We have information sheet talking about the model, or about the tank itself, and that's in several languages. On this side here we have the painting instructions here for what colors go where, and here's our two markings for two different companies, or two different units. This one here is from the 2nd platoon, this one here is from the 4th platoon. So I guess that would be F2 and F4. And finally here we have our instructions. They recommend some tools to you if you're fairly new to the hobby. This will help you decide what to spend your money on, and good tools are an essential part of the hobby. So we're going to need, it's recommending a side cutter, or what's also known as a sprue cutter. I have one right here. And then it's recommending some glue or cement. They of course are recommending their own brand. And that is what I use. I use some Tamiya Extra Thin. And I have here some regular Tamiya cement. It's also recommending some scissors for decals. So I have several pairs of scissors. And again, this one here is from Tamiya. Recommends some synthetic rubber cement. That's not something I have, not something I normally use. Then they recommend you also having a pin vise, which is a small little tool like this here, meant to put little drill bits in, and by hand you can drill into your model to create gun barrels, that sort of thing. So that's mine there, and I have these little containers of drill bits. You can get these off eBay for really not much, and it comes with multiple different sizes of drill bits. If you can see that there. It recommends some tweezers. I have some tweezers here, and it also recommends a modeling knife, which I have here. Some other good tools I will be using will be like this. Here is a seam scraper to get off seams off the edges of your model. You'll see that in use. I have different types of sanding equipment. I have sheets of foam sanding. I have sanding sticks, several types. These can be found at your local hobby store. If you don't have access to them, I would also say you could use a fingernail sanding stick. And I believe you can get those in several different grits as well. So we're going to want something that's kind of, this sanding stick has two different sides. One's more coarse and one's finer. All right, let's see where the instructions take us. So as we open up our instructions, we can see they're a fold-out type instruction. So what they're going to have us build the lower hull first. All right, and then we're going to add the return rollers, which guide the tracks along the top of its travel. And then we're going to be adding our weight in there into the bottom. And of course, these types of glue do not work on metal, so in that case we'll be using something like a super glue or CA glue, cyanoacrylate. Step 2 is going to have us doing the wheels, and again you can see they are recommending colors of the Tamiya type. If you don't have access to Tamiya paint, there are many good options out there for other types. And then they'll also have doing our drive sprocket with the polycap in it. They'll allow the, I believe, should allow the drive sprocket to be movable a little bit, so when you're putting your tracks on, you can align it a little bit better. In step 3, we're going to be putting on the road wheels. Step 4, we're going to build the tracks. And this is where that link and length comes in. So we can see we have the little links that come off, and we'll be going around this corner, or this curve. And we have little lengths for the straight areas, and then again another link, and then our long links. And step 5, we're going to have us put on the rear of the tank. In step 6, we're going to be building up the top of the hull and putting on its other parts. And in step 7, we'll be putting on the skirts. Step 8, they have you connecting the top hull with the bottom of the hull to make it one piece. Now, if we go back in here, I'm just looking to see if there's polycaps. With a lot of these Tamiya models, there's a polycap system which allows you to open and close the bottom without gluing it. That may not be an option on this kit, but I am thinking that I may not attach the side skirts, or I just may not attach the top of the hull to the bottom of the hull to make it easier to access the tracks for painting. Now we're getting into the turret in step 9. They'll have you drill out several little points with your pin vise, and that'll allow you to put certain pieces on for whatever type of tank you're doing. This one here is the M1A2, so it's pretty standardized for what the parts are going to be. Then they have us doing the interior of the hull. There's a little piece in here that allows the crew commander to be half in and out of the turret so that it looks like he's standing on something and looking out. There we have our assembly here for our barrel, so it's able to move up and down. Step 11, looks like we will be working on the outside top of the hull. There's a, it looks like they're talking about the viewport here for the loader. We're putting together the mantle, or the gun shield as they're calling it here, for the front of the turret. Then we assemble the barrel itself, and we attach it to that gun shield. Then we're going to be putting on the side stowage lockers on the side of the tank. Then they have us doing some of the other optics for the vehicle. Step 14, we're going to be closing up the stowage, putting on the racks so that other stuff can be stored outside of the storage in racks, such as their backpacks and other equipment, food, that sort of thing. So some other parts like that, the rear bustle rack on the back of the turret to hold items, which you can kind of see here. In step 17, as well as some antennas. And we have also an APU, I believe is an auxiliary power unit, and the combat identification panel will be going into the rear of the turret. And then they have you put together the commander's hatch and the commander's machine gun, 50 cal machine gun. Looks like in the end here we're going to be attaching those last few parts, the smoke dischargers, the cupola, which you can do pose open or closed. So if you don't want to have your commander sticking out of the hatch, that's an option. You have your loader's machine gun here. And then there's in the final section they have you putting the turret on, and then they talk about doing the colors for the crew commander. And that is it. That's what they're going to have us doing. So give me a moment and I'll get set up and we'll begin our build. So step number 1 has us working on the lower hull. So what I'm going to do here, as you can see, this is our sprue here, or our parts tree, whatever you want to call it, that is has our lower hull parts, or I guess all our hull parts. So what I'm going to do is this is kind of just held on with one little piece of plastic, so I'm going to just give that a cut, and that way I can put this piece aside for now. So we're looking at our directions. We're going to need these parts down here. Now I'm going to be taking my sprue cutters, and as just if you're a beginner, something to note is you want to, you see how this part here is attached by this little injection molding part. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut it, but instead of going really close to it, such as that to flush, that can mar the plastic if you know, if you're not careful. And it may not happen every time, but it will happen sometimes. And to avoid that, what we can do is we can take our sprue cutters here, and we're going to come out just a little bit and leave a little bit of a nub there, like that. So you can kind of see how much plastic we have sticking out right here. Okay, so I'm going to do that around the rest of the pieces here, and I'll be right back. So here are the lower parts of the hull cut out, and you can see I have the little sprue knobs coming off. And what I'm going to do is take my sanding stick in this case, and I have an option. I can sand it off like this with a sanding stick. Now when you're using a sanding stick, what you're not doing is you're not forcing it in. What you're doing is you're just letting it ride over top like that. My finger's just basically keeping the sanding stick just on there with enough pressure just so it's rubbing against that little extra bit of plastic that's coming off. And all you got to do is just give it a feel like that. You can see it's starting to go down. I can come at it at a different angle. Right now I'm using the heavier grit, and then if I want to get close, I'm going to switch to my finer grit. I'm just going to go like that and just kind of finish it off. Now we have that part, it's nice and smooth, just like that. You can run your finger over it. You can kind of feel, you know what, I can feel that it maybe needs just a little bit more. I can tell with my fingernail. I'm going to come back at it again, and just again, no pressure, just a back and forth motion, just like that. And try that again. And there we go. It feels much better. Now another option you can do, once this is off the sprue parts tree, what I can do is I can now take this and cut off more of this little extra piece of plastic here. Because it's no longer in pressure, I'm no longer fighting against the rest of the framing here. So what I'll do is I'll get in a little bit closer. I'll just cut it off like that. I don't know if you can see it on camera or not, but there is still a little piece of plastic sticking out. That allows me the safety of not damaging the plastic by cutting, and then I can just give it a nice little sand like that. You know, just switch it over now to the finer grit, I guess higher number grit, and there we go, just a little bit more. And give it a feel, just like that. Feels nice and smooth. Don't feel anything sticking up that shouldn't be. So give me a moment. I'll get onto these ones here and on these other parts, and I'll come back. Alright, now as I'm removing the extra pieces of plastic from the sprue tree, you can see these ones here are in a tight spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use what's known as a sanding stick, a small sanding stick, as to the big one. So I'm just going to, first thing I'm going to come in here, I'm going to try and knock down a little bit. It's kind of hard with the angle, so you got to find a better angle. Cut it down a bit. I don't know if you can see that there's still a little bit there. So what I'm going to do is sand that down with this little thin stick. And again, I'm not doing much pressure. All I'm doing is just keeping my finger there, even if I don't, just make sure it is running against that part. And there we go, nice and smooth. I'll be back. Alright, so I have these parts cleaned up now, and they're kind of ready to assemble. However, when we look at our directions, we see we need another part. Now this part was not with these other parts. Now each of these sprue trees, or just sprues for short, is labeled in some fashion, normally alphabetically. This one here is listed as being the D sprue, and that had our lower hull parts. What we need here, if we look, we had our D3, D5, and D4, which are these three parts here. Now it wants us to grab another part here, B37. So what we're going to do is we're going to find our B sprue, which is this one here, if you can see the B, and we're going to look for 37. Now, easily this one's can be spotted. It's a very distinct shape. It's this big squared off kind of U shape. So we look on our sprue here and it stands out pretty easily. It's right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to remove this part. And that'll kind of be our interior, I believe. Yeah, it looks like that is their entire interior, other than the weight, which will need to go in as well. So again, I will just a little bit off, or I can go a little bit bigger and come back and clean it up, just like this. Again, clean a lot of it up by probably cut a little closer than that. There we go, just the tiniest little nub left. And we'll carry on with this one. And this one is in here, so it's a little harder to get in here, kind of a bit of an angle, but you can still manage. What I'll do is I will take my sanding stick again, and I can just go in here like this, and just kind of smooth that up. It's not as essential for these parts, really. In fact, they probably don't need them because it's interior. You're not going to see it. But I will clean up these top ones just in case. I don't want it to at all affect the fit of the upper hull if it's, you know, connecting somewhere up here. Okay? So, might just be kind of, I don't know if it's my paranoia or just my wanting to be a bit more of a perfectionist, I guess. I'm gonna clean these up just like that again. Not really applying any pressure. It's just kind of habit to have my finger there. There we go, just like that. Cleaned up, feeling nice and smooth, nothing coming off. So what I'm gonna do is I can put my tools back over there. Now I'm gonna take my extra thin cement. This Tamiya extra thin cement is the consistency of water. So you can see here it just like that. All it is just like water. Whereas this cement here is a little thicker, and these glues do stink a bit. So this is more of a thicker glue, which is great for being used for gluing larger surfaces together. Whereas this one here is also a bit more of a, I guess more of a gluey type substance. I think they both, at least I know for sure, the Tamiya extra thin does melt plastic. If you were to spill it on your mat here, it's gonna clean off all the paint on there, like all these lines would be gone. But what it'll do here is when I put it along these areas, I can see which way this goes, and then let's try this part here. There we go, just like that. So all I need to do is put these two parts together. I can put a little glue down first. So I'll just take my little extra thin here, just like that, and again like this. And just kind of these areas here where they're going to make contact, and then we will go like that. And just hold it for a couple seconds in place. It should start to grip, and once it does, we can come back at it with a little extra thin. Oops. So what I'll do is I'll stop the camera right now while I'm struggling with this, and I will glue it up a little bit better, and I'll be right back. So what I've gone and done is got myself a new bottle of Tamiya extra thin. The other one was getting pretty low and I wasn't getting much glue out of it. So you can see I've got this part attached. Once you kind of got it pinned in place, you can go around with your extra thin or whatever glue of choice you're using. If it's a thin one, what you're going to use is what's known as capillary action, where the liquid on the little applicator here will get sucked down into the corner, just like that. What that's going to do is get in there, melt the plastic, and help kind of weld it together, just like that. And we'll leave it there, and then we'll take our other part here on the other side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the instructions here first, because it may, yeah, see here it's telling us to attach with synthetic rubber cement. Now that's what they're showing here for the weight. Okay, so that's it for the special directions, I guess, for that lower hull. So what I'm going to do is I'll take a little bit extra thin again and just run it along the edge here. You can see I'm getting a little bit more of the cement in place now that I have a bottle that's much fuller than the old one. So there we go. Just like that. Now you want to be really careful when you're dealing with model cement for touching with your fingers anywhere where the glue may be, because it softens the glue to kind of melt it a bit, to weld it like I said. However, if you touch those areas, you're going to get fingerprints, and then you're going to be stuck trying to get rid of those fingerprints. So what we got here, there we go. So I kind of got it in place here as best as I can right now. There we go. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little more of my extra thin. I'm going to apply it in here in these areas. Let capillary action take effect, sucking that cement in there. Alright, there we go. Put a little more down over here to really help keep these places, or these pieces, cemented in place really well. There we go. Just like that. Okay. Now we'll take this part here. It does have a little lip on this side. I don't know if that, let's see if they tell us which way. So that should go to the rear. So that'll sync up with this little blank spot here. So what we'll do is we will take these pieces here, and these little notches here should go in these little low spots here. You can see them. So we will just put this in between carefully, like that. There we go, snapped in place. Make sure, coming from this side, not quite in yet. We will. There we go. You do notice there are two guides on this side as well. Both sides have them. Make sure we're in between those guides and we're in place. And what we're going to do is we're take our Tamiya extra thin again and run it right in there and get that part cemented in. Just like that. You can let that sit for a while and that'll solidify. And while that's drying a little bit, what I'll do next is I'm going to go and cut out these return rollers, and I guess this, it doesn't really say what it is, just some sort of part for the front roller. I guess the control arm for it. So I'll be right back. Alright, that's where we're going to leave it for today. Next time when we come back, we'll be working on the return rollers, the road wheels, and the drive sprockets of the tank. So thank you for joining me. I'd also like to thank my friends over at Hobby Time Modelers for giving me a hand in getting this all set up. So you guys know who you are. You're very, very awesome. Again, thanks for watching, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you next time.